Beginning with Torah portion Terumah, the Exodus account takes a dramatic change of direction. The last two portions, Yitro and Mishpatim, focused on laws and ordinances concerning how the people were to interact with each other, and interspersed with them how they were to interact with the divine presence of God at Mount Sinai. Now this portion begins with Moses on Mount Sinai receiving additional instructions. The first instructions God gave to Moses during his 40 days on the mountain involved taking an offering for the purpose of building a sanctuary or tabernacle for God in the midst of the camp. Look at Exodus 25, 1 and 2. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel, that they may bring me an offering from everyone who gives it willingly with his heart. You shall take my offering." Now, why is it so important that only those with a willing heart contribute? Why did God emphasize that it was his offering by using the phrase, "my offering"? And what do these detailed instructions about the building of the tabernacle reveal about the nature of God? I'm Dan Cathcart, and this is Words from Our Father. God instructed Moses to tell the people to bring him an offering. This word offering is the Hebrew word terumah, number 8641 in the Strong's Concordance, meaning a present or an offering. Terumah comes from the word rum, number 7311, meaning to rise or lift up, to be high or exalted. This offering was to be a present lifted up to God. As it was lifted, it became high or exalted. It is a precious gift to God. God instructed Moses that only those who were willing to bring the offering should do so. When we receive a present, those that are given because the person wants to give it are much more precious to us than those given reluctantly. We are like God in this. God desires the gifts we give him to be offered because we want to give them to him. But this goes beyond a willing heart. The Hebrew word translated as willing is nadab, number 5068, meaning to offer freely or impel. The J.P. Green literal translation of the Bible translates Exodus 25:2 as, "Speak to the sons of Israel, and let them take an offering for me from every man whose heart impels him. Let him take my offering." This is not just willing. This is an offering that you just have to give because your innermost being will not be happy unless you do so. Now, this is an offering you simply must bring, not compelled from an outside force, but compelled from your own heart. God told Moses very specifically what to bring. Exodus 25, 3 through 7. "And this is the offering which you shall take from them: gold, silver, and bronze, blue, purple, and scarlet thread, fine linen, and goat's hair, ram skins dyed red, badger skins, and acacia wood, oil for the light, and spices for the anointing oil and for the sweet incense, onyx stones, and stones to be set in the ephod and in the breastplate." All of these included precious stones, fine linen, beautifully cured skins, spices, and oil. How is it that, having left Egypt in haste, that they had such items with them? Now remember, when the children of Israel left Egypt, they not only took all their own possessions with them, but the Egyptians gave them much of their own wealth as well. The ultimate purpose of these items was to build a dwelling place for God. Exodus 25, 8 and 9. "And let them make me a sanctuary, that I may dwell among them, according to all that I show you, that is, the pattern of the tabernacle and the pattern of all its furnishings. Just so you shall make it." There are several words in this passage to pay particular attention to. The first is sanctuary. It's translated from the Hebrew word mikdash, number 4720, meaning a hallowed part or holy place. Mikdash is related to the Hebrew word kadash, number 6942, which in most often translated as holy, and the Brown Driver Briggs lexicon defines it as separate or set apart. This mikdash was to be a set-apart place, a holy place, where God would dwell with them. God wanted an intimate relationship with them. The word translated as among is number 8432, tevek, meaning to a bisection, to cut in half, to be in the middle. And as such, it means that God wanted to be in the midst or within them. The next word of interest is in verse 9 is tabernacle. Now, tabernacle is from the Hebrew word mishkan, number 4908, meaning temple, tabernacle, dwelling place, or tent. Mishkan is from the word shekan, number 7931, meaning to abide, dwell, or inhabit. God states in verse 8 that he will dwell, or shekan, with them. We need to remember that the children of Israel had just experienced God's presence as a consuming fire, with all the associated thunderings and lightnings upon the mountain. Go back to Exodus 24, verse 17. The sight of the glory of the Lord was like a consuming fire on top of the mountain in the eyes of the children of Israel. The people were afraid and wanted only Moses to go speak with God on the mountain. But now God wants them to build him a holy place right in their midst, so that he can be right in the middle of their camp. Now this Mishkan, or sanctuary in the center of their camp in the wilderness, would be a constant reminder that in spite of God's holiness, he will descend from his glorious place in heaven and dwell with them in their desert conditions here on earth. The Apostle John makes a clear statement about Yeshua dwelling among us in his gospel account when he states in John 1:14 that, "And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth." In the Greek text of John, the word skenoo is used, number 4637, literally meaning to tent or encamp. Yeshua came to dwell or encamp with us. In this case, the tent is Yeshua's human body. The Lord was to dwell among them. Now, how is this to be accomplished? How can the Creator of the universe dwell in any single building or tent? Isaiah says the entire universe is his dwelling place. Isaiah 40:22. It is he who sits above the circle of the earth, and its inhabitants are like grasshoppers, who stretched out the heavens like a curtain, and spread them out like a tent to dwell in. Isaiah goes on to say that God needs no human-built dwelling place. Isaiah 66, verse 1. Thus says the Lord, "Heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. Where is the house that you will build me, and where is the place of my rest?" All the items that the children of Israel gave in the Terumah offering were to be used to build and furnish the sanctuary, a holy place for God to dwell. Each item had a purpose and a place in the sanctuary, or to be made into garments for those who would minister in the sanctuary. This sanctuary in the camp becomes the central focal point and reveals several aspects of God's character. He is both eternal and omniscient, and omnipresent as well as present in the here and now on earth with his people. The prophet Isaiah summed it up nicely in Isaiah 57:15, where he says, "For thus said the high and exalted one, inhabiting eternity, and holy is his name. In the high and holy place I dwell, and with the bruised and humble of spirit, to revive the spirit of the humble, and to revive the heart of the bruised ones." Now, these aspects of God's character, his transcendence and immanence, his distance and proximity, are reflected in the tabernacle in both its construction and its function. There are 3 levels of holiness associated with the tabernacle that are reflected in the materials used in its construction. The gold was the most holy, used in the holy place and the most holy place. Next was the silver, then the bronze and the copper, used in the outer courts and in the construction of the sacrificial altar and laver. Later, we see this same hierarchy reflected in the quality and intricacy of the textiles. In the Holy of Holies, these are described as being made with skillful craftsmen, incorporating intricate design work. The curtains over the entrance of the tent are made of finely twisted linen, the work of a color weaver. And finally, the outer courtyard, surrounded by monochromatic fabrics described as simply woven. The construction of the tabernacle would involve all the people, from those who willingly give their offerings of materials and supplies to the gifted and skillful artisans who built it. The first item of the tabernacle mentioned is the Ark of the Covenant, Exodus 25:10 through 12. And they shall make an ark of acacia wood. 2.5 cubits shall be its length, 1.5 cubits its width, and 1.5 cubits its height. And you shall overlay it with pure gold. Inside and out you shall overlay it, and shall make on it a molding of gold all around. You shall cast 4 rings of gold for it, and put them in its 4 corners. 2 rings shall be on one side, and 2 rings on the other side. Now, the cubit was a common unit of measurement in the ancient Near East, generally thought to be the length of the forearm from the fingertips to the elbow. Now, it's about 18 to 20 inches. Now, we can see from the dimensions given that the finished ark would not be particularly large, roughly just over 4 feet in length and by 2 feet wide and 2 feet high. The wood commonly identified for the construction of the ark is either acacia or shittah. It comes from one of the few trees that would be growing in the wilderness area where the children of Israel camped. It's a beautiful hardwood used to this day for flooring and furniture. The ark was covered completely in gold and would reside in the completed Holy of Holies in the tabernacle. There were poles to transport the ark, fitted through rings at the corners of the ark. These poles were never to be removed, and the finished ark would never be touched again by human hands. Exodus 25:13 through 15. And you shall make poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold. You shall put the poles into the rings on the sides of the ark, that the ark may be carried by them. The poles shall be in the rings of the ark. They shall not be taken from it. The ark had a special cover on it called a mercy seat. Exodus 25:17 through 21. You shall make a mercy seat of pure gold. 2.5 cubits shall be its length, and 1.5 cubits its width. And you shall make 2 cherubim of gold. Of hammered work you shall make them, at the 2 ends of the mercy seat. Make 1 cherub on one end, and the other cherub on the other end. You shall make the cherubim at the 2 ends of it, of one piece with the mercy seat. And the cherubim shall stretch out their wings above, covering the mercy seat with their wings, and they shall face one another. The faces of the cherubim shall be toward the mercy seat. You shall put the mercy seat on top of the ark, and in the ark you shall put the testimony that I will give you. The word translated as mercy seat is the Hebrew kapareth, number 3727, which literally means lid, but comes from the root word kafar, number 3722, which means to cover, cancel, or make atonement. Even the rabbis who later translated the Hebrew Bible into a Greek text called a Septuagint understood the significance of atonement by using the Greek word hilasterion, which means atonement or propitiation. On the top of this mercy seat were 2 cherubim. Now these 2 cherubim faced each other with wings spread as if acting as a guard over the ark. This calls to mind Genesis 3:24. So he drove out the man, and he placed cherubim at the east of the Garden of Eden, and the flaming sword which turned every way to guard the way to the tree of life. Now the place between the 2 cherubim on the lid of the ark, or the kaporeth, inside the Holy of Holies would become the focal point of divine revelation, where the God of the universe will reside on the earth. Now it is here that God would meet with Moses and later with Aaron and the following high priests. Exodus 25, verse 22. And there I will meet with you, and I will speak with you from above the mercy seat, from between the two cherubim which are on the ark of the testimony, about everything which I will give you in commandment to the children of Israel. Only the ark of the covenant, Aaron's staff, a jar of manna, the tablets of the 10 words, and a scroll that Moses would write just before his passing would reside inside the Holy of Holies. There were other important items in the tabernacle just outside the curtain which covered the Holy of Holies. One of these items is a small table made in a similar manner as the Ark of the Covenant and placed on the north side of the inner sanctuary, or what is known as the Holy Place. Exodus 25, 23 through 27. You shall also make a table of acacia wood. 2 cubits shall be its length, a cubit its width, and a cubit and a half its height. And you shall overlay it with pure gold, and make a molding of gold all around. You shall make it for a frame of a handbreadth all around. And you shall make a gold molding for the frame all around. And you shall make for it 4 rings of gold, and put the rings on the 4 corners that are in its 4 legs. The rings shall be close to the frame as holders for the poles to bear the table. This table would be the place for what is known as the bread of the presence. Exodus 25, 28 through 30. And you shall make the poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold, that the table may be carried with them. You shall make its dishes, its pans, its pitchers, and its bowls for pouring. You shall make them of pure gold. And you shall set the showbread on the table before me always. Now it was not unknown among the ancient cultures to place food items before their gods, but for the children of Israel there was an important and key difference. The showbread, which consisted of 12 loaves, was not located inside the Holy of Holies in the presence of God. The showbread, along with the other sacrifices and offerings, were either completely consumed in the fire, eaten by the priest, or consumed by those who brought them. Now, perhaps the most important item that is in the tabernacle, the holy place, is the menorah, the 7-branched lampstand. It is located on the south side of the holy place opposite the table of the showbread. Exodus 25, 31 and 32. You shall also make a lampstand of pure gold. The lampstand shall be of hammered work, its shaft, its branches, its bowls, its ornamental knobs, and flowers shall be of one piece, and 6 branches shall come out of its sides. 3 branches of the lampstand out of one side, and 3 branches of the lampstand out of the other side. Of all the items in the tabernacle, the menorah is the most well-known, religious, and national symbol of national Israel. For more than 2,000 years, it has been depicted on coins, mosaics, lamps, jewelry, and many other items. Today it is perhaps the most recognized Jewish symbol other than the Star of David. One of the most interesting things about the instruction given for making the menorah is that there is no size designation. Tradition has it that it was approximately 3 cubits high. However, one feature that stands out is the depiction of botanical items in its design. It's as if the menorah is a representation of the tree of life. The menorah is described as having a stem, branches, petals, and cups, just like one would find on a tree. Exodus 25, 33 through 37. 3 bowls shall be made like almond blossoms on one branch, with an ornamental knob and a flower, and 3 bowls made like almond blossoms on the other branch, with an ornamental knob and a flower. And so for the 6 branches that come out of the lampstand. On the lampstand itself, 4 bowls shall be made like almond blossoms, each with its ornamental knob and flower. And there shall be a knob under the first 2 branches of the same, a knob under the second 2 branches of the same, and a knob under the third 2 branches of the same, according to the 6 branches that extend from the lampstand. Their knobs and their branches shall be of one piece. All of it shall be one hammered piece of pure gold. You shall make 7 lamps for it, and they shall arrange its lamps so that they give light in front of it. The menorah was to be the one and only light source within the holy place of the sanctuary. 1 lamp of it was to always be lit, and it was used to light the other 6 lamps once fresh oil was put in them. Now, why is so much time and effort given to the construction of the tabernacle? Are these instructions more important than the moral codes given in the previous Torah portions and then interspersed throughout the rest of the Torah? 7 chapters of Exodus are devoted exclusively to the tabernacle and repeated again in the book of Numbers. The building of the tabernacle was a test of their obedience. It was to begin with the voluntary offering of the materials to be used in its construction. These materials God Himself provided when He redeemed them from slavery in Egypt. The people added in their skilled labor, and in a unified effort, following the instructions given to Moses by God on the mountain, they built the tabernacle and all its parts. In this way, the covenant at Mount Sinai is then fully ratified. God provided the materials, the people provided the skilled labor. Then God would take them as His people, live among them, and they would be His light in a darkened world. I'm Dan Cathcart for Moed Ministries International. Shalom, and be blessed.